This is Studio 809.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Outdoors Hiking Bob podcast. I'm your host, Hiking Bob Falcone. You can find me on my website at hikingbob.com, which has links to my social media, the other podcasts I've done, my photography website. And don't forget, you can also email me if you have any suggestions, comments, thoughts on anything you hear here or anything you want to hear on the podcast. You can do that at hikingbob.com. And also, don't forget, you can also sign up for my free newsletter there. And if you'd like to support the podcast, you can do that at Patreon, patreon.com/hikingbob, and help support the podcast. And we appreciate all the people who help us support the podcast now and help pay the bills and keep us going. And I'll be honest with you, some days give me a reason to do this. No, seriously, love doing it and glad we're here. Today, as you can tell, joining me is Wild Westendorf.
Hey everyone, it's Kevin, Wild Westendorf here, and you can find me on social media, Facebook and Instagram at Wild Westendorf, and at my website, which is wildwestendorf.wordpress.com.
And Kevin hasn't been here in a while. We've had a lot of interviews. We had the director of the Colorado Springs Parks Department on here. We had the director of the El Paso County Parks Department on here the last couple of weeks. If you haven't listened to those two podcasts, probably a good idea to go back and listen to those because get an idea of what's going on with the parks departments in the city and the county here. Also down, we interviewed Ashley from Fremont Adventure Recreation down in Canyon City, and I was so excited about what we talked about on that podcast. I went down there a couple of times and did some hiking trails down there, and beautiful hiking trails around the Royal Gorge area down there that are not part of the Royal Gorge Bridge area there. They actually, there's a big city park all around there and some beautiful hikes. I'm definitely going to be spending some more time down there this summer.
Canyon City is a very underrated area for hiking.
I think so too. I think people who were in the know kind of, who knew about it. But I think that with the work that FAR is doing down there and developing a lot of trails, that I think more and more, A, they're developing more trails, so there's more places to go. And B, I think that they're bringing attention to it. And, we talked about Canyon City before. It's a pretty thriving small community down there and really nice people and a lot to offer. And not that far from Colorado Springs, under an hour, zip down 115, then zip over on Highway 50 and boom, you're there. Then the Royal Gorge Park is just on the other side of town, on the west side of town. So if you're going to Salida or something like that down Highway 50, you're going to go right by it. But I did a couple of hikes down there over the course of a couple of days. I drove down a few times and went down there one day, went down there with Cole. The other time I didn't, and just really enjoyed the hiking down there. So check those out. All the other podcasts we've done, closing in on 400 in the next. We're pretty close to 400 podcasts. In the next 2 months, we'll be hitting the 400 number.
Wow!
What are we going to do then, Kevin?
Retire.
Yeah. Again?
Yeah.
I've done that already. I keep getting I'm so busy doing other things. People said, aren't you retired? And I go, I don't understand this retired word you use. I'm not sure what that means. Kevin, we always talk about the weather here. So let's talk a little bit about the weather. We've had a pretty good amount of snow the last couple of weeks.
Yep.
It seems like for those people who want to get out, it's hit on weekends, which I'm sure is a lot of fun for a lot of people to get out there. But let's just touch on a couple little things about outdoor recreation. I love the snowshoe. I think you like snowshoeing.
Oh, yeah.
You can't really hike when it's too deep. But, you just post-holing through the ground. Cross-country skiing is another thing a lot of people like to do. Obviously, the downhill skiing up in the mountains people love to do. But one thing I noticed, I was out hiking in the last 2 weekends over in Mueller State Park because we've had a lot of snow. And when we get snow, they get a lot of snow up there.
Oh, yeah.
So I went hiking up, snowshoeing up there the weekend before last. There was probably a foot of fresh powder, 2 feet in some places down there. It was a blast to snowshoe in. This past weekend, they didn't have quite as much, but still plenty. And that's on top of a base of a lot of snow. So there's a lot of good snowshoeing there. There's a certain amount of trail etiquette to think about when you're out snowshoeing or enjoying this. So in Mueller State Park, for example, they groom some trails for cross-country skiers. And they'll tell you at the visitor center what trails those are. And it's probably good if you can to avoid snowshoeing through those, or even worse, post-holing through those, because that makes it tough on cross-country skiers. And one thing I noticed when I was out hiking this past weekend Well, the weekend before last, I should say that we got there so early in the day, right when they had just plowed the road into the park, and there was a foot of snow up there, that we, basically had to plow our way into the parking lot of the visitor center just to find a place to park. They hadn't even had a chance. And they got to it. It was just, we were there so early, they just didn't get a chance to plow it yet. So we're hiking through fresh powder. We're the first ones through there. A lot of work. I mean, even, with snowshoes, when it's this powdery stuff, you just sink. So we snowshoed our way through there. This past weekend, I went out and, it was later in the day and people had already been snowshoeing or walking or whatever. But some people were just out there hiking in the snow, which, I don't imagine how much fun that could have been because you're just sinking into it. Mm-hmm. But here's the thing about that, too, and I noticed I'd never had this experience before, was that they were post-holing through fresh snow, punching holes through it. When I would try to snowshoe across it, my snowshoes would get caught in those post holes, and it would twist my ankle this way or that way or something like that. So I guess my thing is, if there's a lot of fresh snow, we're talking, 6, 7, 8 inches, 9 inches of fresh snow, and you want to go out there, probably try to avoid it unless you're going to get a pair of snowshoes or a pair of cross-country skis and be out there the right way. If you're post-holing through there, it's not comfortable.
Oh, it's awful.
You're going to wear yourself out unless you were smart enough to wear gaiters. My guess is if you're post-holing, you're not wearing gaiters anyway. You're going to get wet. You're going to get cold. You're going to get uncomfortable. And you're making it tough for other people who are going up there and trying to snowshoe across kind of this post-holing. Cross-country skiing over post holes, people, from punching through there by hiking is no fun. And even on big, wide, long snowshoes, it wasn't any fun. So I guess my thing is just wear the right stuff if you're going to go out there. And just, A, do you want to be that miserable? And B, do you want to not be considered the other people going out there? Now, I know I'm going to hear about people, you're just entitled. I'm not saying that. You can borrow snowshoes. You can rent snowshoes. Or wait a couple of days till things pack down a little bit. I don't know. What do you think? Am I off base on this, Kevin? Tell me if I'm off base, and you'll tell me if I'm wrong.
Yeah. Oh no, I actually never thought about that. So I appreciate you bringing that point up because it just I never thought about that. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense. When I snowshoed, it's been right after a fresh snow, so I haven't had to deal with that, or I don't think I remember. It's been a couple of years, but yeah, I think you're on track.
Okay. Anyway, if you're going to go out there. And by all means, enjoy as much outdoor recreation as you can. But if it's that thick, deep, fresh snow, it's just, for anything else, it's just no fun just punching your way through that. I mean, it's hard work snowshoeing. Punching through it is harder than snowshoeing is. I guess I don't understand why you would do that, especially some of these people were on a trail. I was doing a 3.5-mile loop, not all that long, snowshoeing-wise, but not all that long. And somebody was punching their way all the way through that. And I'm like, that's a lot of work. Why are you working so hard?
I kind of did that once. I wasn't necessarily post-holing because it was probably not even a foot of snow. And just after a while, I was like, why did I choose to do this? So I can't imagine trying to do that when it's a foot or 2 feet of snow. And plus, it's dangerous too. I bailed on hikes where I've reached a section to where the snow got way too deep. And you increase their chance of post-holing, and then you fall over. You could break a leg, you could twist an ankle, because once your leg gets into the post hole, it's not going to move unless if you lift your leg straight back up, which makes it a lot more work too.
Right, and the other thing is happening too is that you punch your way through there, and then that snow starts to melt and then freeze again against your leg, and now it becomes ice.
Yep.
Which makes it hard to get out if it's really, really deep. It's uncomfortable. So I'm just saying, be considerate of the other people out there. Like, when I went to the visitor center, they told me which trails they were grooming. So I said, well, I'm not going to go snowshoeing there. And they couldn't tell me not to, but the whole point of telling you that is so you don't go snowshoeing there.
Yeah.
They were like, yeah, we appreciate it if you didn't, so that the cross-country skiers could do it. Now, there were people cross-country skiing where I was snowshoeing. That's up to them. But they also knew they had their own trails that they could go snowshoeing or skiing on. They spent a lot of time and money to buy a cross-country ski grooming machine, and they spent a lot of time taking their people to training, and they spent a lot of time going up there and doing it. The least I could do is avoid it. And it's only a few miles of trail out of the many, many, many miles there is up there. It's not like going to kill anybody to just avoid those trails. Anyway, kind of get off on a tangent. And we've talked a lot here about being properly prepared for the weather, being properly clothed, and tell people where you're going and keep an eye on the weather and all that kind of stuff. I don't think we need to tell everybody about that again. We've talked about it quite a bit. So, Kevin, I forgot to ask you, how the job hunting is going. Are you still looking for new employment?
Yep, and I really appreciate the folks who have reached out with ideas and suggestions. I even had someone say like I'll help you on your resume, and so that is extremely appreciated. Still haven't nailed the job down yet, but I'm going with it in stride.
Well, glad to hear that. And if anybody can help Kevin, if you know any jobs that are coming up, tag him on social media and let him know that there's something up there that he might be good for, which could probably be just about anything.
And I did have to delay the job search a little bit because 2.5 weeks ago I got COVID for the second time.
Oh, boy.
And I got the symptoms a couple days after I went to a job fair, so I'm pretty sure I got it there.
Oh, geez.
And I was just like, well, I don't want to try and do interviews and be like, oh, but hey, you've got to wait another 1.5 or a week or whatever until I feel better. And so yeah, it's just been a month.
Was it at least a little easier to get past it this time around?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Did you have to take anything special for it, or you just wait it out?
Nope. The only thing is, once I started testing negative, I had about a week where I got dizzy. That was the only extra thing that I got compared to the first time I got it.
Okay. Well, that's good.
I'm fine now, though.
Good. Yeah, you look good. So you're not going to give me anything, right?
What?
You're not going to give me anything, right? I'm going on vacation soon. Cool. Kevin, you and I have talked about movies we like. Somehow we got into the movie review business.
Yeah.
There was a thing that popped up the other day on my news feed for a movie on Cinemax, and I'm going to cross a couple of things here. I'm obviously a hiker, and I spend a lot of time out hiking, and I'm also a kind of a true crime fan. I listen to a couple of true crime podcasts. I watch some true crime stuff on TV and everything. So there was a movie that was advertised. It came out on HBO Max, or I guess they just call it Max now. It used to be Cinemax, then it was HBO, then it was HBO Max. Now I get into Max. I need a flow chart to figure something out. But anyway, it's a Max movie. It's called, they called him Mostly Harmless. And Mostly Harmless is a trail name. This is for people who do the long through hikes like the Appalachian Trail, the Pacific Crest Trail, the Continental Divide Trail. So there's a story about this guy who is named Mostly Harmless. And this story goes back a number of years. And it starts out with his body is found in a tent. If somebody finds a body in a tent, they call the police. They quickly determined that his trail name was Mostly Harmless. Somehow somebody had seen him on a trail, but nobody knew his real name. So it's the hunt to really identify him. So it's kind of a combination of a lot of talk about the through hiking community and how they do things, and who trail angels are and what they do, and how they kind of band together and give each other nicknames and stuff like that. And then a little bit of true crime drama as they try to find out who this person is. I'm not going to give any spoilers. It's a pretty interesting story. And there's a couple of different elements to this. There's a lot of public input. A lot of this was done a lot on social media, and how quickly things get unhinged.
Okay.
Or how quickly people get unhinged. Misidentification and how people won't let it go.
I've seen that a lot on Reddit.
Yeah.
When there's a national case, and then they identify someone, they're found on social media, they're attacked relentlessly.
And they're the wrong person.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's horrific. If you ever, you could not like social media for a lot of the usual reasons because people will just make stupid comments and stuff like that. That is the worst. The conspiracy theorists, and then the people who think they're smart and are not. Maybe the Dunning-Kruger effect would be something for people to look up. And there's a lot of that in this story about how one person was identified as the dead body, and he goes like, "I am right here." Well, how do you know you're here? Well, how do I prove I'm not dead? It was just insane how out of control it was. So when you wonder why, when there's an investigation going on, the police keep things to themselves, this
Yep.
is why. Now, to be fair, online, true crime people did figure out who this person was, but not without threats and not without misidentifications, not without a lot of real ugly stuff going on. Sometimes you have to wonder if they figure things out just by luck, not because they have any skill. But it's not. That doesn't mean it's not an interesting story, and that doesn't mean it's not a good story, and that doesn't mean there's not a twist at the end that you should probably watch for. And at one point, a real journalist gets involved and kind of, I don't want to say saves the day, but kind of makes sense out of all the stuff and tries to figure out what's going on there. It's a pretty good story. It's only about, I think the movie's only about an hour and a half long. So if you want to watch that, I highly recommend it.
Okay.
It's a lot of fun. So the name of it is They Called Him Mostly Harmless, on HBO Max. So you have to have a Max subscription, but you could probably, if you don't have one, you could probably sign up for a 30-day free trial and, figure out what to do with the other 29 and, 9/10 days after you watch this hour and a half movie. But it's actually pretty good to watch. The other thing is also on HBO is The Night Country, which is the latest in the True Detective series, the latest season.
I've been wanting to watch that, yeah.
Takes place in Alaska. A lot of interesting stuff. I would say that I've watched all of the True Detective seasons. I will tell you that the first one was very good.
I love the first one.
The third one was very good. This one's very good. The second one was not so good. I would skip the second one.
Yeah, I've only seen the first one.
Yeah, the first one was really good. So there have been some really good seasons and one really bad one. I think nobody liked the second season. It was really not that great. But anyway, it's a side off. If you want to know about Alaska in the winter, this starts off right when they go from the last day of daylight till 6 months of complete darkness and what that's like. And
I've been wanting to watch that because I just listened to a podcast about the Alaskan Triangle. So it's like the Bermuda one, but apparently there's an area up there where there's just all kinds of weird stuff. Not like aliens, not just alien stuff, not just Bigfoot. There's all kinds of crazy stuff that...
Really?
Yeah, it was fascinating.
Interesting. I'll have to check that out. So anyway, True Detective is pretty good. It's really interesting. So anyway, if you have a chance, I would watch that too. While you have your free trial for the HBO Max, watch this also, and catch up with that. I think it was pretty good.
That's actually how I watched the Super Bowl, was to get a free trial on Paramount Plus.
Paramount Plus. There you go. There you go. That's the way to do it. A couple of things going on with the winter hiking and stuff. We've talked about that. Avalanches are increasing. We've had 2 avalanche deaths in the state so far. And what's happening is we get these snowstorms, and we know what happens. The snow falls, it gets warm, it melts a little bit, more snow falls on top of that, slick snow, creates a shelf, creates a slide point, then you have avalanches that occur over that. So if you really want people to be aware that if you're in the backcountry, especially if you're cross-country skiing or something, be very careful of the avalanche danger. There's the Colorado Avalanche Information Center, and I'll put a link in the show notes to that you can go to and check for the avalanche conditions and stuff like that. But be very aware of avalanche threat. If you're going to be out someplace, you should probably have an avalanche beacon, which is not the same as a personal locator beacon. They're not interchangeable, 2 entirely different devices. But just be careful out there with the avalanche danger.
And I knew two people. We weren't close friends or anything, but I got invited to a few of their barbecues. But I think this was back in 2021. They were hiking early summer, actually. I don't remember where, and an avalanche happened, and they both died.
Oh my gosh.
And yeah, so when the names were released and the news, I was like, oh my God, I know them. Like, it was a shock.
Sure.
But yeah, so it's not just a wintertime thing too.
Yeah. Well, that snow is up there, and those, till it melts enough that it's not going to be a big deal. It's still a hazard, and we're having a lot of snow. I think I saw the day we're recording this that right now the snowpack is at 96% of average, so almost average. So that means there's a bunch of snow up there in the mountains. So be careful up there. Besides all the usual things about watching out for, getting lost and, snow and hypothermia and all those other things. Be careful the avalanche possibility. Check with the avalanche center and, make sure that, you know what you're going into. Be prepared. Surviving an avalanche is mostly luck, to be honest with you. It's not a good thing. We talked a while back about the movie about that avalanche that happened in the Tahoe area back in the 80s. That came down.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that one? If you want to get an idea how bad an avalanche could be. Now, that was a huge, big avalanche, but even on a smaller scale, they can be just as devastating, so be really careful.
That also reminds me, I also just listened to a podcast series about the rugby football team that crashed in the Andes. Mm-hmm. And I won't get into the details of what happened.
It's not pretty.
And how they survived. But once they were finally able to dig themselves out of main part of the plane that was still intact, an avalanche came. Yeah. And the podcast went into extreme detail of what it's like to experience one, and it just sounds absolutely terrifying.
And if you're even the slightest bit claustrophobic, I don't know how you just don't go completely out of your mind.
And apparently, survivors have said that they get so thrown off and they're buried that they actually have to spit to see which way is up and down.
If you can remember to do that, without panicking and you could literally dig yourself deeper in, which is just horrific too. It's just completely frightening. And if you hear any noise there, Cole just came in from a walk and he's all excited and he's running around this here. Kevin, a couple of things going on in the community here is the El Paso County wants to put in a new nature center. They have two, one at Bear Creek Regional Park and one at Fountain Creek Regional Park, so both on the south side of the county. They want to put one in on the north side of the county up at Fox Run Park, which I think would be a great place. The determination of where to put one was actually part of my time on the county parks board. So I was part of that. I won't say part of the decision-making process, but part of the process that helped, point the direction where to put one in. They've been having a couple of public meetings, having another one this Friday. I'll post a link to that for people who might be interested in, just seeing what it's about. It's going to be a beautiful place, not a really big building, but the way they're going to blend it into the park itself is really, really nice.
Cool.
So there's some public input coming on that. One of the big things right now is, funding it. Colorado Parks and Wildlife is doing something, and this came in just before we sat down to record this. But they're going to have some public meetings in the southeast region, which is basically southeast corner of the state. The southeast region is invited to public meetings to talk about mountain lion management. I know we did mountain lion management, but there's going to be 3 meetings, one in Trinidad, one in Florence, and one here in Colorado Springs on March 7th. 90-minute meetings, an overview of the mountain lion population of the eastern, the east slope, issues facing the predator. They'll talk about the goals for management plan, a timeline for the project. The public's invited to circulate among various tables where they can talk to biologists, managers, carnivore experts. So it's pretty interesting. They do say that this is kind of geared towards hunters, outfitters, farmers, ranchers, and landowners. But obviously, if this is even the slightest bit interesting, even if you're not one of those people, this is pretty interesting stuff. There will be meetings in public, and then there will also be 2 separate virtual meetings. Okay. So what I like is their virtual meetings will be designed as virtual meetings, not just a camera set up in a meeting hall where they're having something and you can't hear anything or anything. So there will also be virtual meetings. I'll provide a link to all this stuff. But it sounds kind of interesting because, I get emails all the time. I'm worried about a mountain lion killing me. Probably not going to happen. Same thing with bears. Probably not going to happen. More likely not going to happen. Extremely rare that it can happen. But in any case, this is pretty interesting stuff. If you're the slight bit interested in wildlife, they're going to have these things. Also, there will be a community meeting this coming Friday, this coming Thursday. So the day after this podcast comes out, with the Friends of Old Stage and Gold Camp Road. That's a friends group that was recently formed in the last couple of years. Some of that kind of started before, if you remember, about 2 years ago, there was some talk about closing Old Stage Road at night because of what was going on up there. A lot of things were not really great going on up there. We've talked about that. It was kind of discussed when I did the podcast with the Forest Service law enforcement officer, but a lot of that road's not in the Forest Service. It's up to the county to do things. So the group is having a public meeting this coming Thursday, 5:30 to 7 p.m., Norris Penrose Event Center. There's the information. They do ask for RSVP. You could do that at info@ppora.org. Do the day you hear this because the meeting's the next day. The good thing about that idea to put a gate on Old Stage Road was it died the death that it deserved to die. That idea was, nobody wanted that, except the city thought it was a good idea. Even the people who live up there who complain.
It sounds terrible.
Even the people who live up there, and we've talked about this, who had plenty to complain about and plenty to be upset about with what was going on that road, didn't want that gate. So there was an idea, thanks to public input, and people always wonder if public input is worth it. Thanks to public input, that idea died the miserable death that it deserved to die. It was just a terrible idea, besides all the ideas about since when does a city get to shut off somebody else's road. In any case, so that's coming up this week. So there's a couple things coming up in the coming weeks. I did try going, as another side note, I did try going cross-country skiing. Never done that before.
How was it?
It was fun, even though I spent most of my time face down in the snow. But it was fun. That will be the subject of a very soon upcoming podcast. So I'll just give people a teaser that I did try going cross-country skiing. Let's just say if you think I'm a clumsy person, this would have proved that you're right. But completely my fault. I mean, the instruction I had was very good. Told me knew what they were doing. It was just... if I want to do this as something I want to do more often, I need a lot more training. But it was fun.
Okay.
And it's something. It's a good alternative when you don't have quite enough snow to go snowshoeing. You need 6 to 8 inches of snow to go snowshoeing. You can cross country ski in 1 inch or 2. So it was fun doing it. So I'll that'll be the topic of a future podcast. So we'll talk adventures in cross country skiing. Somebody asked me, did I put the cross in cross-country skiing? As in crossing the tips, don't do that. I put the fall in cross-country skiing. I fell a number of times. I was told, however, I was not the worst student they had.
Oh, that's good.
I was also nowhere near the best, which if they told me I was the best, I'd have been upset because I was not that good. But so that's what happened. It was kind of fun.
You know, that actually reminds me, I've seen people who will, after it gets snow, who will get a ride to the top of Gold Camp and High Drive and just ski across High Drive.
And come down at Gold Camp?
Yeah.
At Bear Creek, yeah.
Yeah, and it looks like it's so much fun. But with all the switchbacks, I know I would fly off of one if I didn't train first.
Oh, they'd find me the top of a tree someplace down there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you want to do it when that's fresh powder because once that melts a little bit, then turns to ice. Oh, I can't imagine because that if you've never ridden on Old Stage Road, and more likely if you're listening to this, you probably haven't because they've closed that. Or no, I'm sorry, not Old Stage Road, High Drive.
Oh yeah,
they've closed that to vehicle travel. It used to be open seasonally one way, and then they decided just to not open it anymore because the erosion was so bad that if you've never driven it, it was interesting, and if you've never hiked it, it's interesting. But let's just say it's very steep on the north side, with a lot of tight turns and big ditches on either side. And if you miss, that can be pretty. But I've talked about it too. I used to hike with some friends up there and say, we should bring you up here with some skis, strap on a GoPro to your chest and send you down there and said,
I bet that'd be awesome.
It'd be a blast just to see that. If you know what you're doing and you're a good skier. If you're not, it's just going to be 10 seconds of whee, boom. Somebody get me out of this thing. I have not seen anybody do it, but I know we've talked about it would be a cool thing for people to do.
Yeah, because I love to do section 16 in the snow. It's just a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And so I've seen that a lot when I'm coming back down on the lower part and getting back onto High Drive.
Now, are they on cross-country skis or are they on the downhill skis?
I do not remember.
Okay. Because I couldn't see going that fast on those turns. I had one lesson say, so I'm off some. I act like I know what I'm talking about. On cross-country skis are very narrow. So I can't imagine doing those tight turns.
Okay.
Maybe you can. Again, all my knowledge of cross-country skiing came from one lesson, but we talked a lot about it. But it seems like trying to do those tight turns with those really narrow skis, where you can't really bite in to make those turns. But
makes sense.
That could be a blast if you know what you're doing. Not me. I'd make it the first turn and I'd be just plastered all over the side of the hill someplace. It'd be the iconic cartoon, you go by a snowbank and the only thing sticking out is 2 legs and skis. That'd be me. It would not be pretty. There's a reason why you walk on snowshoes: big, wide, long, flat,
stable.
Yeah. It's a reason why that's what I do and not other insane thing. Plus, at my age, Kevin, I'll tell you what I don't do anymore. I don't bounce. I hit the ground and just thud, and I'm laying there hurt. So there's, a man's got to know his limits. And trying to do that would be past mine. In any case, Kevin, I don't have a whole lot more to talk about. What do you got anything? You done anything interesting in the last couple of weeks while we were gone? I know, unfortunately, you had to recover from COVID, but we haven't had you on in a while. So any other cool stuff you done?
No, but I'm definitely going to try and make up for the hiking that I missed out this week and this weekend, because I think it's supposed to be really nice the rest of the week.
Going to get cold Friday into Saturday, but not much snow, and then going into next week, going to be back in the 50s. So I think we have like 2 days of like cold weather, but they're not really predicting any snow, and then it's going to warm up again.
Oh, yeah. So,
okay. I mean, overall, if when this comes out on Wednesday, from Wednesday to next Wednesday, with the exception of 1 or 2 days in there, it's actually going to be pretty nice.
Oh, yeah.
So you're going to catch up on some hiking and get some more miles under you?
And I have time now to go snowshoeing. So it's just kind of like, I definitely want to try to find a day to do that, to make the 2-hour drive to the Arkansas River Valley and find a good trail over there to do.
Yeah. Staunton State Park is really good about posting their trail conditions up there, so I would definitely check on their trail conditions. They do a really nice job of getting out there and posting, because they have such a wide variety of trails out there that they do pretty good at posting that. So if you want to check on that, Staunton State Park is one of my favorite places.
Okay.
It's a 2-hour drive. It's a day. You'll spend the whole day going out there hiking, coming back, but I think it's worth it. It's pretty nice. Oh, hush. And yes, Cole the dog is hungry, so he's sitting here whining at me. Hush. And he also does not pay attention. As long as I keep petting him, he's going to be okay, because it occupies him. He's simple. He's recovering from, for people who have seen pictures of him, he's recovering from his ACL tear in his left leg.
Okay.
He's doing better. He's getting laser treatments on it now. And we may be able to, we think we're on the track to avoiding surgery.
Oh, good.
On his left leg.
Okay.
So hopefully he won't get that really bad invasive surgery like he had on the right one. But his vet seemed to think he's doing pretty good. So
that's great to hear.
Yeah, we'll hear how he goes. But he's still a pain. See, the minute I stop petting him, he starts whining again. I have to sit there and pet him. Anyway, Kevin, anything else you got, or anything else you want to talk about before we go?
I think I'm good.
All right. With that, everybody, thank you for listening to us ramble on and rant on and all that kind of stuff. And check the show notes for links, and we'll talk to you later. Thanks for listening to the Outdoors Hiking About podcast.
We'll talk to you later.
See ya. Hey everybody, before you go, and thanks for listening to my podcast, don't forget to check out Stevie and Will on Chronology's Functional Wellness podcast. You can tune in for tips on slow aging, functional wellness, and healing through food, movement, and a healthy lifestyle. Check it out here at studio809podcast.com.